You found the Backup Wrap Up, your go to podcast for all things backup, recovery, and cyber recovery. In this episode, we're excited to announce something that's going to make life easier for NetBackup users everywhere, a completely free NetBackup reader from S2 Data. If you've got NetBackup disk images lying around and you need to know what's on them, or you need to get data off of them, but you don't want to maintain or pay for a full NetBackup environment, this tool is for you. We're joined by Brendan Sullivan, CEO of S2 Data, to discuss why they created this free tool and how it can help you take control of your backup data. Full disclosure, I work for S2 Data and am just as excited about the tool as Brendan is. By the way, if this is your first time listening and you don't know who I am, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup. And I've been passionate about backup and recovery for over 30 years, ever since I had to tell my boss that we had no backups of our production database that we had just lost. I don't want that to happen to you, and that's why I do this. On this podcast, we turn unappreciated backup admins into cyber recovery heroes. This is the Backup Wrap Up. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I have with me my fellow wicked convert, Prasanna Malaiyandi. How's it going, Prasanna?
I'm doing well, Curtis. It's an amazing movie. I had never seen the musical,
Right.
and I heard someone enjoyed it so much that they decided to go see it twice this weekend,
Oh.
helping contribute to that $114 million box office earnings.
Yeah. It was. I did enjoy it enough to go see it twice. I would totally go to see it a third time. But the reason I saw it twice, because the first time I saw it by myself. And then I made sure that my wife got a chance to see it. And she, of course, loved it. My favorite part was, there's the one really sad / touching part. And my granddaughter, who wasn't with me during either of these, my granddaughter, when she was watching it with her mother, she turned to her mother and said, "I bet Papa is crying during this part."
And Papa is what she calls you.
Yeah, Papa is what she calls me. And yeah, she was right. It was a great movie. And for just for frame of reference, I typically hate Hollywood versions of my favorite musicals, but this one they knocked it out of the park in every sense. I have no complaints, and my only complaint is that I have to wait a year to see part 2.
But at least they're making part 2.
Yeah.
Right. So I took my wife to go see it, and I would say the only complaint that we had was it's a little long. Right.
For a couple that watches Bollywood movies on a regular basis, you think that this movie was long?
Yes.
Okay.
It was just a touch long, but
2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Plus, if you add the 15 or so or 20 minutes of previews, right, you're sitting there for 3 hours, right?
Which is just long enough to get a Bollywood movie started. So,
but no, it was great. Yeah, like my wife was like, I really, really, really want to see it again. So we will wait. Maybe we will watch it on streaming whenever it comes out, so we can pause, take breaks in between, that sort of thing.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So we have someone chomping at the bit. We once again are visited by the CEO of S2 Data, Brendan Sullivan. How's it going, Brendan?
Not too bad at all. How are you doing?
I'm just going to go on a limb and say that you did not see Wicked this weekend.
I have not seen Wicked.
You are missing out, my friend. Missing out. But we're here to talk about some pretty big news. And so I'm just going to jump right to the news release that's basically going to go live today as the day that we're publishing this particular episode. And that is that S2 Data is releasing a free NetBackup reader. So you want to just give a summary of that, and then we'll jump into why would you do such a thing?
Yeah, so what it is a standalone application that anybody can download. And if they have old NetBackup disk images lying around that they want to know what's on there, or they know what's on there and they want to get what's off those images, then you have two choices. You either crank up the legacy NetBackup environment or the existing NetBackup environment to restore them, or you can download our app and find out what's on them and restore what's on them, or just get an index of all the metadata and find out that way. And the kind of the driver to do it is largely because there's a lot of legacy backup environments out there, and as is often the case, data outlasts the infrastructure or the environment in which it was created in. Things like litigation, business, compliance, regulatory reasons actually compel companies to either keep it or extract it long after they've paid for or maintained the environments. So this application allows them to do that whether they have the environment in place or not.
So this sounds amazing, Brendan, but I guess one of the questions some listeners may have is you did a backup using, say, NetBackup, right? And you're keeping it around. Why would I need a tool like this given that I have like my backup sitting? Like, is there a reason why I can't just reuse NetBackup that I have in my environment already?
No, there's no reason you couldn't use that. And really the reason to use the application is if you no longer have that. And so what is often the case is that the customers haven't got that existing environment around, no longer have the support, no longer have the hardware infrastructure or the software licenses to do it, but yet they still need to find the data. So it's actually only in the instance when you don't have the environment around. And we see that is happening with increasing frequency, that companies are moving on. They're moving on to backing up to the cloud or other versions or other flavors of backup, and they've got old data out there.
I guess one of the reasons that, especially let's say a Veritas customer might be in this scenario, is if they are considering moving on to another product, or perhaps they're concerned about the Cohesity news, even though Cohesity is, made it clear they're not killing off NetBackup, they're not going to orphan these customers. I think there's still a certain amount of uneasiness there. And this gives them that option, right, to continue to read their backups, but while they don't have to keep the NetBackup environment around. If they still have it, right, it'd be, like you said, there's no reason to use the tool if you have the NetBackup stuff running. But if you have backups, but don't have NetBackup or don't want to continue paying Veritas, then that would be the use for the tool. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. I would say that it's also fast. You point it to a location, a path, or a destination, a local destination drive, and say, give me the index of all the files on this disk image, and it does it extremely quickly. So there's no convoluted path that you have to go through other than a couple of clicks of a button. So it can also be pretty quick. But really the driver is clients want to have their data in their own hands under all circumstances, and for as long as they want it. This is not a replacement. This is an alternative for a certain situation. And what might also be interesting is why did we do this, or what gave rise to it? Because we're an IT professional services company, and we make our money by offering services to find, restore, delete, dispose of, etc., data from all sorts of legacy backup environments and current backup environments for that matter. And we were doing a project internationally, actually in Europe, about a year or so ago, and the project was going well, and there was lots of different sources or destination sources where data that was having to be collected was collected from. And one of the challenges with this with companies is that they don't necessarily want to, because of data privacy or regulation, or because of their own business policy, then they don't don't necessarily want to move that data worked on within our facilities or with anybody's facilities other than their own. And we were on site behind the firewall doing this kind of work, and then it became clear that certain data sources were not in that physical proximity. They were on some disk images, or they believed that they were on some disk images. So we developed a kind of a piecemeal solution at the time and said, look, we can pull this into the grander population of data. If you run this, we'll get an index of the content of those disk images that are in a different location. Did that, worked fine, sent some data, didn't send others, and the project was complete. And at the end of the project, we thought, that's a pretty useful utility for anybody to have, So
Right.
It's not always the case that you can be on site. It's not always the case that you want to do anything extravagant or anything comprehensive with the data, like an e-discovery production or something like that. Maybe you just want to know, to rule in or to rule out whether or not target data is actually there. So we built that application. We thought that's pretty useful, and it could be useful going forward. So why don't we put that in get a quite attractive user interface, I may add, and a standalone application that'll boot itself, and it could be quite useful for clients to have it. So that was the driver.
Having worked at quite a few backup vendors, one of the things that we would always talk about is, hey, let's always have our own proprietary format, because then it makes it so sticky, right? A customer can't easily switch from your software to a different software because, like you said, they have all this data. What are they going to do with it? And so you kind of become very sticky, which for a vendor is good, but for a customer isn't always the right approach, because you might want to pick a different vendor because there is a new business problem or challenge you have that requires a different solution. And now you're kind of stuck, right? So it's great to see tools like this that gives customers that freedom to decide what tools they should be using, what vendors they should be using, and not necessarily be stuck because they made a decision in the past.
Yeah, so I just want to jump in here. Full disclosure, I work for Brendan. I guess I maybe should have started with that, but I do work for Brendan. I just wanted to jump on a piece that you said earlier, Brendan, and that is that this is one of the businesses that S2 Data is in, is to do exactly what Prasanna talked about, is to give people the freedom to use their old backups, but without having to be tied to that old backup company if they don't want to.
Yes,
Right.
that is.
Yeah.
And if I can kind of just add on what Prasanna just said, it's the client's data. It's not the backup software's data. The companies that create these environments, it's not their data, it's the client's data. And they want to have total command of it. And that's one of our taglines. We give you total command of your data. So, you hear, over the years, we've heard a lot about, standardization of formats, and why can't we have, some level of standardization here or there. But the reality is it's a market environment. Everybody wants the standard to be their own standard. And as long as they never go out of business, or as long as those standards never change, then everybody's happy. But of course, we all know that's never going to happen. So this is all about really just giving the tools so that clients can be in total command of their own data whenever they need it to be.
Yeah. And even with standardization, like I just think about NDMP, and even though NDMP is a standard, every vendor has their own format within NDMP. So you don't end up with that cross compatibility. So
yeah. When you talked about, you said that it can catalog the data and it can restore the data. What format is that catalog output?
The catalog output is CSV. So you can read it on an Excel spreadsheet. You'll just get a dump to a local disk, and then you'll have a list, and it'll have the major pieces of metadata of those individual files. So things like file name, file extension, the path that it was originally backed up to, create, modified access date, file extension, and the size of the file. So standard type information that you might need for future discovery or future production of that data.
Yeah, I like that, because the idea, again, you talked about faster, like in the case of NetBackup, which is what this tool right now is designed to work with.
The
The
first tool,
catalog is great. Yeah, what was
yeah,
that?
the first tool, NetBackup is huge amount of users out there. But this is not to say that we can't develop subsequent apps on all of the other major backup software platforms.
Right. The NetBackup catalog is nice, but also this idea of being able to create sort of a human readable catalog, as I make quotes in the air. But basically, if I could create a CSV file of every one of my backups, there's a lot of things that I, as a Unixy type person, can do with that, right? You know, beautiful words like grep and sort and all sorts of things. I can find really interesting things in that data if you give me the data in a format that allows me to do text manipulation. I think that's something that this offers that even if you have NetBackup, it doesn't necessarily offer that. At least certainly not in as easy a format of this.
Yeah, that's correct. That's not in a simple format. You'll typically have, when you're creating a backup, a net backup, as I'm 100% sure you'll typically have a phase one import, a phase two import, and then you'll have a process to go through to get those. This is closer to a phase two import catalog for those net backup users out there. It's closer to that, but it also has backup session level information as well. And it's quick. So certainly from our company that has developed a lot of its business from servicing the legal technology industry, decisions are made. I don't know if it's more, but it's certainly significantly evident that decisions are made based on metadata, file catalogs, session catalogs, as much as the actual content itself, because a lot of what discovery and production is all about, it's all about ruling out rather than ruling in. And so a catalog that's the most beautiful thing for it, or the most common use for it is to be able to rule out stuff, because you want to be able to delete it in a defensible manner. You want to be able to ignore it and be able to say, here's why I ignored it. And so the creation of a catalog is extremely important.
And Brendan, one question. You mentioned sort of it being faster, and I know you talked about import one, import two. I'm not as familiar with NetBackup terminology. Could you sort of like high level walk us through like comparing this tool to like what a customer may have to do if they didn't have a tool like this? Like at a hypothetical scenario, right?
So I'm going to answer that by referring you to somebody who said they worked for me 10 minutes ago. And because I'll wager that Curtis has used NetBackup a lot more than I've used it.
I
We've
think,
created, we've
yeah,
created native file restoration tools and extraction tools. So we create emulated environments that enable you to do things with data that was created by NetBackup. But Curtis will have used NetBackup a lot more than me, so he might actually be
Yeah.
better placed to answer that.
All right,
yeah.
Curtis, you're on the spot.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, assuming what you have is a pile of NetBackup backups and you don't have a catalog, right? That's sort of the worst case scenario. The first thing you'd have to do is to create a NetBackup environment. Find some NetBackup software that's compatible with the version of NetBackup that you happen to have, which you're not sure. So it's just there's some uncertainty there. You install the NetBackup software, and then you're going to do a phase one and a phase two import on all of these images. And that will put it into the NetBackup catalog, which then you would be able to, do the
Search
regular
and
NetBackup searches, right?
okay.
But you wouldn't be able to do this idea of just putting it into plain text and then searching it with various tools, right?
Yeah.
And even, I mean, dare I speak, even AI tools, right? You could take this text CSV, feed it into something like ChatGPT or Claude, and look at the stuff and tell me what you can tell me about these files, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that it's not doable with Veritas, right? But there is that challenge of the first thing of getting the
Yeah.
software that you may not even have anymore, and you may not be able to get the software that's compatible with the version that you
Yeah.
have,
And
right?
the cost associated with that too,
And it costs,
right?
well, yeah, right.
Right.
The, the, um,
Not just the software license, but also like the hardware, everything else you might need
Yeah,
in order to be able to provision and run.
You definitely need a server that can satisfy the basic requirements of the Veritas software. Whereas this is a very basic app that can run on a desktop, and it just needs basically directory file access, right? So NFS mount or something like that. It's not going to handle like things that were backed up to object storage, at least not yet. And if it doesn't handle what you have, right? If you have tape net backups, if you have Networker, TSM, ArcServe, if you have all of those other formats, that's what S2 data does, is they can handle all of those other formats on a professional services basis. But this tool will do exactly what it says for the low price of $0. And basically, to get the tool, you just download it directly from. We'll put the link in the show notes. You can download it directly from S2 Data. It is a signed app, by the way, for those who are concerned about that. But it downloads and it installs and as a demo version, and that will do a certain number of files, without putting in the license. The license is free, but you do need to contact us to get the license.
It sounds so amazing, but the one question I have is like, why has no one thought of this before? Like it seems like a common problem that like every customer dealing with their backup environment, migrating from one environment to another would have. And yet, like I've looked online and I haven't heard or seen anything like this. So it's kind of surprising.
What do you think, Brendan?
I think there's definitely an element here that we're market shaping, as much as anything. I can't tell you the number of times that when we've had potential projects that we've been scoping and we've been on conference calls, and the client explains their environment and they say we need to get this data and that data, and can you do this? And we say yes, and they say, so you have this environment, and then we say no. We have our own application here with our own technology, and we can restore your data. And they say, not everybody thinks that we can do it or thinks that it's possible. And of course, it is possible. We're not the only company in the world that does this kind of non-native file restoration type approach. But so number one is largely within the IT backup world. Like when we hired Curtis, he was surprised at what we do because he's been living with in the world of using licenses and infrastructure and handshakes with certain library types, et cetera, to get hold of his the data. So it's just that not everybody has necessarily thought that there may be an alternative way to get access to your data other than the original native environment. So there is that, and that's part of the driver, if you like, towards launching a free app. It's the world of getting data back for clients, or helping data get back for clients, is very broad. We're an IT professional services company primarily, and there's a lot of ways for us to have relationships with customers. And so we thought, this is one good way here is we know that a lot of the times IT administrators, like Curtis from a past life, they want to get hold of the application themselves and play around with it rather than speak to somebody. So what we're doing is we're allowing them to get hold of an application and see what can be achievable. And if they achieve what they want, great. And if they need more information because they've got a larger requirement, we're there too for that. So they're the drivers really for doing this.
Yeah, I like that. And today it's NetBackup Disk and it's free. Tomorrow, who knows, right? Who knows what applications, what forms this will take over time. I'm super excited both for you, Brendan, like for the company, but also because I'm sitting here waiting to see how this thing. We've been talking about it for a while, and releasing it today. I know that the journalists that I've spoken to, they were very interested. They were like, "Oh, this," it was sort of like what you said of like the disbelief, right? And it's like, why would you release a free tool? That whole thing, right? What I think it does is it demonstrates the kinds of things that are possible. I think that's a good thing. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm kind of waiting to see how it goes down as well. I have a suspicion that there's going to be plenty of downloads.
Yeah, I suspect the same. We'll be watching the same logs, I'm sure. All right. Well, thanks, Prasanna, for the usual chat.
No, thank you. And super excited to hear the uptake in this tool. I think it's a great way, and hopefully more companies realize they shouldn't lock users in. So
Yeah,
that
good
should
luck.
hopefully change things.
Good luck with that. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
All right. And thanks to our listeners. We'd be nothing without you. That is a wrap. The Backup Wrap-Up is written, recorded, and produced by me, W. Curtis Preston. If you need backup or DR consulting, content generation, or expert witness work, check out backupcentral.com. You can also find links for my O'Reilly books on the same website. Remember, this is an independent podcast, and any opinions that you hear are those of the speaker and not necessarily an employer. Thanks for listening.